This is a Boeing 737 with no roof. The entire top of the passenger cabin, from just behind the cockpit back to the wings, is simply gone. Torn away in flight. The people in those seats were suddenly sitting in open air, at 24,000 feet, in a 200-mile-an-hour wind, with nothing above them but sky. And somehow, this aircraft landed. Aloha Airlines Flight 243 was a short island hop, from Hilo to Honolulu, on the 28th of April, 1988. The aircraft was 19 years old and had done something most aircraft never do. It had flown an enormous number of very short flights. Every flight means one pressurization and one depressurization, the fuselage swelling slightly and shrinking again, like a balloon. On a normal long-haul jet, that happens a few times a day. This little 737, hopping between islands, did it constantly. Nearly 90,000 times in its life. And with each cycle, tiny cracks have been growing along the rows of rivets in the aircraft's skin, hidden under the paint, invisible from the outside. At 24,000 feet, climbing out over the ocean, a small section of the skin finally let go. And once one piece failed, the pressurized air inside did the rest. In an instant, a huge part of the upper fuselage peeled away and was gone. The decompression was explosive. One flight attendant, standing in the cabin, was swept out of the aircraft and never found. She is the only person who did not come home, and this story is told in her memory. The two remaining cabin crew were injured but alive, crawling through the wreckage to help passengers who were still strapped in, now exposed to the open sky. In the cockpit, the crew felt the aircraft lurch and heard a bang, and suddenly there was a hurricane of wind and noise behind them. The cockpit door was gone. When the first officer looked back, she could see blue sky where the ceiling of the cabin used to be. They did not fully understand what had happened. They could not see the damage from their seats. All they knew was that the aircraft was still flying, barely, and that they needed to get it down fast. The captain, Robert Skornsteimer, began an emergency descent toward the nearest runway, at Kahului on Maui. He had to fly an aircraft that was structurally broken, that might come apart completely at any moment, gently enough not to finish tearing it in half, but fast enough to get everyone to the ground before anyone else was lost. He could not use the normal speeds. He had to feel his way down. As they got closer, more problems appeared. One engine failed. The landing gear had to be checked by hand. The nose gear indicator would not confirm. But the runway was there, and he brought the wounded aircraft down onto it, and it held together long enough to stop. 94 passengers and crew survived. Many were injured, some seriously, but they lived, in an aircraft that by every expectation should have broken apart in the sky. The investigation changed aviation permanently. It proved that metal fatigue in an aging aircraft was not a distant, theoretical risk. It was real, it was hidden, and it could open an aircraft like a tin can. Because of Flight 243, the way older aircraft are inspected was rebuilt from the ground up. Engineers now look for exactly the kind of tiny, invisible cracks that brought the roof off this one. The aircraft could not be saved. It was damaged beyond any repair and broken up where it sat. But the lessons written into it that day have quietly protected every passenger who has flown in an aging airliner ever since.